Good morning to everybody and welcome to a pranzo col NIC, a lunchtime webinar series focused on project management. This is Tony Ciccardi speaking, a PMI volunteer and Deputy Director of Piemonte Val d'Aosta branch at PMI NIC. The today webinar is focused on scientific approach on work organization, in particular the work organization of frontline. Today we learn about an approach that can be used in many fields. It can be used in industry, it can be used in healthcare, it can be used in sport, it can be used in all the fields where passion and routine, in which capabilities and repetition can be a winning alliance toward the work optimization. In project management, we refer to it sometimes as best practice. All these concepts are in TWI programs and the Toyota Kata discipline. Agata, please, can you pass the other side? Okay. All these concepts are in TWI programs and the Toyota Kata discipline. Agata Pawlukojc and Fabrizio Paolin will talk about today about this methodology. They both are experts in TWI. In particular, Agata is co-founder of the Istituto TWI Iberia. She speaks 5 languages, but not Italian. Fabrizio Paolin is also a TWI expert and evangelist in Italy of this discipline. He has gained the master training in TWI and Kaizen in USA and Japan. So, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to start the webinar calling Agata Pawlukojc and then Fabrizio Paolin. Please, Agata, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Tony. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. I hope you are all doing fine today, and thank you very much for participating in this webinar. Yeah. When Fabrizio and myself we started to prepare for this webinar, the first idea that came to our mind was that project management is a very complex activity, yeah, where with many obstacles, where project managers need to have a proven approach to successfully lead the teams to achieve project objectives. We think that this proven approach should be based on scientific thinking. Yeah. So, project management involves many actors, such as technicians, heads of department, team leaders, and others. Yeah. And project managers get results through the coordinated effort, coordinated work of all of them. But do all of them have the necessary skills and act methodically to accomplish the objectives? I suppose that based also on your experience, we could say that not all of the participants are having enough skills or are able to act methodically. When we think about the participants, many of those actors, they come from the front line of the organization. Yeah. What does it mean, frontline? Yeah. So when we think about manufacturing companies, the front line are the operators and the supervisors. And when we think about service companies, will be the people who deliver the services and their supervisors, the heads of the department. Similar, when we think about healthcare, we can think about nurses, we can think about doctors and their supervisors, and so on and so on. All of those, our organizations, yeah, they are all facing complex situations at their front line during day-to-day work. Yeah. So, what happens when, as humans, we face complex situations? Maybe you know the ideas of the professor Daniel Kahneman. Professor Kahneman is a psychologist, but he won a Nobel Prize in economics. His ideas are very interesting, and if you don't know him, I do recommend you reading his book, Thinking Fast and Slow. One of the ideas from the book is that as humans, we have two systems for decision taking. System one is the fast thinking system. Yeah, it's like instinctive, automatic reaction, very frequently linked with jumping to conclusions. Yeah. System two is a slower thinking system and requires analysis and requires effort from us, and which is more difficult. Yeah. So there is, when we think about the best way of approaching complex situations, for example, when managing projects, yeah, if we use only the system one, then this fast thinking, jumping to conclusions, yeah, there is a high risk of making many errors if we do so. So when facing complex situations, we should try to use our system two. But we know that using system two is not easy because it really requires quite a lot of effort from us. But imagine if a person in your team, maybe the one in charge of a critical activity of the project, comes and tells you, well, we need more data to do this job, yeah? Wouldn't you be happy about this? This is exactly what TWI training program is about. It is about developing scientific mindset and skills at the organization frontline of the organization frontline leaders. Yeah. So let's have a look at the TWI program origin. TWI program was developed during the Second World War. US government put in place a multidisciplinary team of experts and practitioners who developed a program aimed to enable the industry to help itself, they were saying. Yeah? With a gun to their head, and it was literally, yeah, the TWI founders had to find solid principles of human natures that first would work every time, would inspire dedication, would create performance results, would build leadership and strengthen teamwork. And based on those principles, the founders created TWI programs. I think you would agree that one of the factors, the key factors to success of any project in any organization are the people. It's very important then to have the organizational frontline leaders to be capable to work successfully with their teams. Frontline leaders have very critical role in the organization. They must ensure that the necessary actions are carried out properly by the operators in order to transform the strategies established by the management into the products that we want to send to our clients or into services that we are delivering to our clients. So the founders of the TWI services, they developed the fundamental skills of the frontline leaders through developing the skills in instructing people, skill in leading people, skill in improving methods, and also skill in maintaining safety and preventing safety incidents. It is reflected in 4 training programs. So skill in instructing is being developed in job instruction training. Skill in improving methods is being developed in job methods training. Skilling leading is being developed in job relation training, and skilling maintaining safety is developed in job safety training. All 4 programs are TWI essential programs for skill development. Here we can see the cards. These are the pocket cards that the participants of the TWI training receive when participating in the training. You can see that on each of the cards we have 4-step method for each of the programs. This 4-step method is based on the idea of the 4-step method of Charles Allen, which was already developed in 1919. It is the idea of preparation, presentation, application, and testing. I'm sure that you are familiar with this in a way that it is parallel to the PDCA thinking. Yeah? And it is also related directly with the scientific thinking. Yeah? When we start to think, how is a scientific approach? We know it is based on observation and description. It is also based on formulation of hypotheses, using these hypotheses to make predictions, and then testing these predictions by experiment. When we look at those 4 steps, we see that it is directly linked to the system 2 we discussed before. Yeah? So when dealing with the daily problems at the front line, there's a big value in using scientific thinking, because it gives a robust approach to problem solving based on data and on experimentation and not on individual opinions. And it helps to take better decisions in complex situations. So there are another characteristics of TWI program. Here we have some short summary about it. Yeah? The delivery of each of the programs, yeah, is standardized. First, each method is stated in shop office terms. It means the language is simple. The meetings, the sessions are 2-hour meetings, yeah, to keep the subject fresh, yeah, and not keep people away from their jobs over a long period of time. The groups of the participants are small, 10 people, which makes easier to directly communicate, yeah? And each participant must demonstrate in the class that they know how to use the method. When we pay attention to this last element, we can see that it is very relevant when we consider how adults learn. And it takes us to another critical aspect of the TWI program, which is learn by doing aspect. The TWI approach is not about theory, it's not about classes or lessons, it's about practice. So TWI is about individual or group work on current daily problems related to cost, to quality, to delivery, to moral, or to safety. And this is very important because the learners immediately apply the new concepts they learn and link it to their previous knowledge. So they build new knowledge on their experience. Developing the TWI skills of the leaders can give different benefits to the companies. We can talk about standardization of the work, productivity increase and constant improvement, faster, quicker training, which means also faster learning. Yeah. Another benefits are change in thinking, new mindset, developing of new mindset and new culture, improvement of the discipline, or better problem-solving skills. All of these benefits help companies to be more flexible and more adaptable, which is very, very important in these days. From the history, we know about those benefits on one side, but that's not the only way how we know about the benefits. One great example that we have is Toyota example. Toyota currently is probably the most prominent example of a company that incorporates TWI program as the foundation of their production system. TWI played a major role in establishing behavioral patterns for shop floor leaders. And the 4 steps of the job instruction, for example, are well known in all the automotive industry thanks to Toyota. Very few people know about the role that TWI program had for building the Toyota culture. The same is true for not only for manufacturing, but it's also for services or for healthcare. So using TWI skills can help companies in transforming their cultures into more agile, into more adaptable learning organizations. Okay, here I would like to hand over to my colleague Fabrizio, who will give you a brief introduction to Toyota Kata. Fabrizio.
Thank you, Agata, and welcome also from my side to this webinar. Toyota Kata, we are, as you can see, we are linked to Toyota once more, because really the story of a production system, well organized and scientifically organized production systems, is directly linked to the concept of the concepts of the Toyota production system. What is Toyota Kata? Kata is a word that maybe many of you know from the practice of the martial arts. Karate, they have kata. And it is a pattern of scientific thinking. It is a skill building process to shift our mindset and habits from a natural tendency to jump to conclusion to a tendency to think and work more scientifically. It is something that Mike Rotter, the author of the book that you can see in the slide, described after spending some time at the Toyota Motor Company and studying the way Toyota builds the capability in their supervisors and in the operators to pursue their goals and to use scientific thinking to remove the obstacles that prevent them from being achieved. Okay. You see, many of you can recognize the picture, the Karate Kid. TWI and Kata have many similarities. In fact, I would like to mention the fact that also Mike Rotter shared with us, or with some colleagues of us, an article written, I believe, last year, in which the author, I don't remember the name, who was an American author studying Kata and TWI. He said that also TWI should be called TWI Kata, not only Toyota Kata, but also TWI Kata, because both of them imply a fixed pattern, a method. You have seen the 4 pocket cards with the 4-step method, well structured and well described. Will require practice and repetition of the fixed pattern and the emphasis on creating the daily habit of the form. And this is true both for TWI and Kata, because also in TWI, we are not, the training is not about sharing knowledge. It is about sharing skills, and skills can be gained through the practice. It is a sort of muscle memory that we apply automatically every time we are in front of a specific situation. Do you remember the picture wax on, wax off in this movie? Well, those movements were not aimed at teaching the boy how to polish the car. The true aim was to fix a pattern to be used in many other situations. For instance, during a karate fight. We have 2 different kinds of Toyota Kata, the improvement Kata and the coaching Kata. the improvement kata is characterized by the following pattern. The blue spot, the challenge, is representing step 1 of the pattern, and the challenge is given. In our case, when leading a project, the management of a project, the challenge is to accomplish the assigned project. Step 2 is understanding the current condition. What does it mean? It means that we have to understand where we are now. What is our current situation? And this has to be described with data, not with feelings, not with opinions, with clear data. From the current condition, we move to step 3, to establish a next target condition. This is an intermediate target that somehow brings us closer to the challenge, moving forward our threshold of knowledge, because if you know exactly how to get to the challenge directly, then we don't need any experiment, to do anything but doing what's necessary to get to the challenge. But most of the time, we don't know exactly how to get directly to the challenge to achieve our goal. So we need to learn step by step, moving forward the threshold of our knowledge through many target conditions that from step to step we achieve. And the step 4 is working on the obstacles that prevent us to get to the target condition. And here we use the scientific approach to work on them, removing and acting only on one obstacle at a time, because just in this way we know which one was really preventing us from getting to the challenge. The other is the coaching kata. Coaching kata is about guiding the persons in charge of applying the improvement kata. It is aimed at helping them to be focused on their activities. And in order to do this, the project manager, the leader, has some coaching tools. The white box that you see on the left side of the slide is the learner storyboard, where we put all what they know. On the other side, the blue box is representing the 5 coaching questions that have to be asked when doing the coaching cycles. Okay. Next, please. TWI and Kata have very strong links. Well, with what we have learned from Agata and from me, now we can see how we can link TWI and Kata together in order to get to the challenge. Moving from our from our current condition, we need to fix a next target condition and removing the obstacles. And using, and removing the obstacles, we can use TWI to remove them. To that purpose, we can use TWI. If you need stability, if we need standardization, then we can use job instruction. To improve productivity, job methods is perfect. And to create an environment where people trust themselves, trust their supervisors, and do what is necessary because they want to do, not because we push them to do it, then job relation is perfect. Kata is using the scientific approach in working on one obstacle at a time. TWI is helping to remove the obstacles using the scientific approach, the scientific thinking, in each of the pillars of the components of TWI trainings, like job instruction, job method, and job relation, thanks to the 4-step method approach. Both of them with fixed pattern and daily habit of the 4. We should try to get them to get the practitioner to use them as a muscle memory that starts automatically when we face such a situation where we need to do it. Okay.
Thank you, Fabrizio. Thank you very much. So we would like to finish our reflection with this slide. and to talk about back to basics. Yeah, because when we talk about people, it is always about being back to basics. Yeah, and when you think about the champions at the very top of their game, yeah, they are always practicing basics in order to win. So even if are the higher, they still practices running with the ball or whatever necessary. So the basic skills to really perform at the highest level. TWI is about going back to the basics and incorporating this scientific mindset into our daily habits in order to develop a robust thinking pattern and strong fundamental skills. Thank you very much for paying attention and participating in this webinar. We are aware that it is a very short time to present all of those concepts. Our idea was just to give you some introduction, yeah, and we do hope that we have been able to bring some inspiration and some new knowledge to you in order for you to maybe broaden it and maybe use it in your work or in your life. Thank you very much for paying attention, and I would like to hand over to Tony. Tony?
Yes, I'm ready. Yes, okay. Thank you, Agata, and thank you, Fabrizio. It's very interesting, and this interest is also demonstrated by the number of questions that we have received. We have received a lot of questions, and I would like to, before to end this webinar, to pass you some of the question and to have the first answer. Besides Toyota, is Kata used by other big companies in your knowledge?
Yes, many companies are today using Toyota Kata. Both in the healthcare, I can mention, because I have a direct experience on it, the Baptist Memorial Hospital in Memphis, United States, that with 13 different hospitals, and they use daily Toyota Kata. But Novo Nordisk, a Danish company using manufacturing insulin, is using daily Toyota Kata. Many companies are now adopting this methodology. If interested, I can send to you, Tony, a list of the major and the biggest companies using this.
I think you have the opportunity, because there are a lot of questions, and I think is a good services for the participant to answer it offline. So you have the possibility also offline to include this list.
Perfect.
Okay. Agata, do you want to add something, or I pass to the other question? To another question?
No. You can pass the other question if you have.
Okay. This question I think is very interesting also too. In which relation is this approach with emotional intelligence that in the last year is considered the way for decision? So relationship of this method with emotional intelligence.
Agata?
Well, now to respond it quickly, it's not something that we can directly bring the relation, yeah. But I think that the emotional intelligence has a big impact on the way how we react also, yeah. It's part of the intelligences that needs to be developed by us. It's another skill that we need to work on, yeah, and as part of our development as to interact with groups, yeah. So I think it's relevant to develop and work on emotional intelligence when thinking about working with people, yeah. So how we relate. For me, in my head, it's more related with job relation part of the program, Yeah, when we are dealing with people, part of this is giving feedback to people. So when we give feedback to people, so you see there's a direct relation with the emotional intelligence. Yeah, in a way how we interact with our people. For me, the link would be mainly with the part of, well, it's with job relation, which is building good human relations, but also now when I think it will be also with how we instruct people, yeah, which is, there is a big emotional impact on the way how people receive and learn. Yeah, we learn much better when our emotional situation is good. Yeah, so there's quite big link between the emotional intelligence and the TWI skills. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, if I can add one just a small observation. Yes, I agree totally with Agata. Job relation is the pillar of TWI, focused directly linked directly with the emotional intelligence, because thanks to job relation we train people to build a positive and engaging and involving environment where they can feel they are appreciated, and they trust that they like to stay to be part of the group and then they activate their abilities to give a positive response, a positive contribution for the success of any operation.
Okay. Thank you, Fabrizio. Thank you, Agata, for the webinar and for the answer to the question. The time unfortunately has expired, so we have to close the webinar. So I give you some to the participants some advice of the next events that will deal with the competition, the collaboration, how to balance them in leadership activities. It will be done in the 22nd. On 27th, we will talk about uncertainty. And finally, we close this series at 29th with changes, with guidelines on how drive the changes. Next slide, please. Finally, at the end, just some final advice. You will receive a feedback questionnaire. If you have entered the PMI ID when registering, the PDU will be automatically added in your account with 10-15 working days. The materials will be available at PMI NIC website. If you do not hesitate to email us, you can write at email events@pminic.org. So I would like to thank all the participants and to thank also Agata and Fabrizio for the interesting webinar that they have had. So arrivederci to the next webinar.
Arrivederci.
Arrivederci.